Hive Mind Guy makes music, yes. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Human Reviews channel, and today we have a new collection of Quadeca songs. He randomly dropped this extended re-release of Vanisher Horizon Scraper, one of my favorite albums of last year. I gave it a 10. You should go watch my reaction to this album. It is a good-ass video. Yeah, he dropped these 3 extra songs that are essentially like a mini EP to go alongside the album. He said it's apparently like ambient adjacent or something like that. I'm very excited going into this. Again, I'm a big Quadeca glazer. I think that I Didn't Mean to Haunt You is great. I think that Scrapyard's fantastic. I think that Vanisher Horizon Scraper is one of the best albums of the decade. So I'm going into this with incredibly high hopes. Let's just do this. We got 3 tracks here. Adds up to, what, like roughly 21 minutes or something like that, 21, 22 minutes. Let's just run it. Track 1, Finale. First track is 7 minutes indeed. It's one thing to lose Quadeca, it's another thing to lose Anthony Fantano. Very interesting sound so far indeed. These swelling strings are quite haunting. New Quadeca, yeah. New selection of Quadeca tracks on a Monday. Ooh. Wow. Getting some blissful piano in here. I say blissful, it's more sorrowful than anything. Warbly keys. Kind of a perfect descriptor for that, yeah. Bringing such a sense of dread to the table. Ooh. Love the subtleness of this piano playing, yeah. Listen to his bad albums. I will at some point. How old is he? He's like 23 or something. Kind of crazy that he's putting out music this good. Oh my god. Such a beautiful, very raw, spacey recording. I'm actually gonna look up how old he is. I think he's 23. Oh, 25. Shit. Never mind. My goat's washed. Too old. I was waiting for some singing. Apparently this whole thing is ambient adjacent. I think it's going to be 3 instrumentals. Imagining this after Casper is quite something as well, yeah. Feels like a somber moment of peace following, you know, fucking dying on Casper. Definitely does well on the ambient side. Absolutely. I think this is such a nice atmosphere immediately. You gonna transition? Yeah, of course it is. Solid opener. I'd give that a... I think I'd go with a high 7. Yeah, high 7. I was super locked in with that for like the vast majority. Then towards the end, I could feel it start to drag a little bit. I don't know about the 7-minute runtime. I feel like it didn't really need that and kind of explored all of its ideas long before it reached the end of the track. And it kind of felt like it started to just, I don't know, dwindle in terms of its atmosphere towards the end a little bit. Now, I did love that atmosphere that was built there, though. I do think that the recording of that is beautiful and raw and incredibly spacey. I think that everything sounds so live and in the moment. The amount of emotion that comes through, especially if I think about it as like a companion piece to the album coming after Casper, I am impressed by this. Even if I don't absolutely adore the track, it's a high 7 for me. That was a really sweet introduction to this trio of ambient pieces, and I'm hoping that he can keep the same level of quality, if not higher, moving into the other 2. Anwar, is that how you say that? Fahim Irfan, is that how you say that? Fahim Irfan? I don't know how to say that. We have someone doing some guitar here. The guitar work is quite nice, though I'm not fully immersed in the same way I was at the starting point of the first song. Definitely does feel a bit jazzy, yeah, kind of has a freeform kind of looseness. Should have brought Dax again to rap over this track type shit. Made some real heaters. Might listen to the other 2 tracks from these last 3. I'm just gonna do this little like mini EP that was tacked onto the end here. Probably just listen to the other 2 on my own time. I specifically want to focus on these 3 ambient pieces tonight. Interesting choice to muffle the sound of that guitar so much. Make it sound like it's coming out like an old record player or something. Interesting. The dynamics on that guitar, the way it kind of rises and then pulls away, kind of feels like waves coming in, especially when you have that constant repeating, very muffled guitar as well. It kind of feels like just the ocean in the background. And even just this backing ambience feels like I'm listening to the ocean as well. Is it a 7-minute interlude? Oh, really? It's just like 3 instrumental tracks that are a little longer. I guess as individual pieces, they could kind of work as interludes on the album. If they were obviously cut down. Wish you would have had some muffled vocals to this. Yeah. I feel like this would be a nice instrumental to have some singing over. Like some very shrill vocals or something like that. Something super like understated. I will say this one's a lot more tranquil than the previous one. The previous one had kind of like this looming sense of dread over it. This one is a lot more at peace with itself. It's like a little bit of an underlying optimism with this. It's a little bit of mystery, but this one is like very pretty. I don't know how vocals will work on this given how loose it is. I mean, the album kind of had its looser moments, and he was able to make it work with vocals over those moments. Like, it wouldn't even necessarily need to be lyrics. I could just imagine some, like, mumbling over this, to be honest. It's just some random vocalizations. Oh, well, there you go. Some ghostly backing vocals. Yeah, I wish there was more of that, too. That'd be really nice. Especially, you know, considering, again, if this is meant to be kind of coinciding with the album ends with him dying. Well, presumably ends with him drowning, and then, you know, this kind of just being this ghostly kind of presence to add in here. This was kind of like the opposite of the first song, where the first song, I was in love with it until like kind of the final quarter of the track, where it kind of started to drift off a little bit for me and get, I don't know, just not necessarily stale, but a little repetitive to the point where I was falling out of the atmosphere a little bit. This was the opposite, where I feel like this track started off and I wasn't fully feeling it. I wasn't fully seeing what the track was, I don't know, trying to demonstrate. But as it progressed, as this guitar part got more complex, as extra layers were added in here, I kind of started to realize that this is meant to be kind of the antithesis of the previous track, where that one was very full of dread, and that one was very specifically dark, feeling like it's matching the tone of the end of the album. This is so specifically the opposite of that, where this is more so like something that's more beautiful, a little more reflective, a little more colorful as well. The old like record player kind of sound that it has with that more muffled guitar makes it feel a little nostalgic as well. Maybe again going with the concept of this being paired with the album, maybe like looking back on your life with kind of a rose-tinted glasses kind of look after you've already experienced the dread of passing on into death. I don't know. I like that one a little bit more than the first, even if I think it takes a little while to get going. I think that once it does, that's like effectively super eerie and incredibly beautiful. And yeah, I think it's the strongest of the first two. I'd give it a low 8. You know, some of the influence of the previous two albums with Childish Gambino, Tyler the Creator. I bet this album was influenced by Bright Eyes, BCNR, Fleet Foxes, Bon Iver. Yeah, lots of stuff in that. Like Sigur Rós especially, I could see being a big one. The last album also felt like there was a lot of stuff that was quite forward-thinking and incredibly original, particularly on the production front. I don't know. I was just so fucking impressed with Vanisher, and I still am kind of like mind-blown at how fucking amazing that album sounds. Just on a production level, it just feels so... It's weird to say this, you know, less than a year and the album's come out. The production feels ahead of its time. It's some of the best production I've heard on an album in the 2020s in general. Maybe the best production I've heard on an album in the 2020s in general. And I would still stand by my 10. I would still stand by. I don't think it's my favorite album of last year. I would put Birthing above it, but I would definitely stand by my 10 and have it as number 2 for last year. A lot of ambient and drone, from my experience, actually does require a bit of attentive listening. Absolutely, yeah. Like lots of people think that ambient is something you just chuck on in the background and it, you know, doesn't mean anything. It's just like droning notes and just directionless instrumentals. But no, a lot of ambient stuff does require paying attention to the slight changes, the little minor builds, the dynamic range that the track has to offer, even just like getting a deeper understanding of the mood and trying to pull some emotion out of that mood as well, can be very rewarding. Accordion's Remorse. Kind of a turn back into the despair of the first track here. This is kind of that beautiful blending of textures that I remember from like the album. The fucking angelic ass vocals mixed with the harsher texture you get from the accordion here is, man, it is bliss. It's gonna be part of the movie or no? Not this time, I don't think. It would surprise me if we did get another like mini movie along with this. Okay, Rosie on the accordion here, kinda cooking. Holy shit. I was gonna say, it does remind me a little bit of motion picture soundtrack off of Kid A. The kind of pulsating feeling that the accordion on that track has. Ooh, a little bit of percussion as well, wow. Nice. You know what this really reminds me of? Finally Peace at the end of The Glowing Man. That song is also 8 minutes. It's also the same thing being repeated over and over again, but it just builds upon itself and kind of pulsates, and with every like breath it gets larger and larger and larger. This is doing something very similar and even feels tonally quite similar to that track as well, where, you know, Finally Peace feels like you're being let into heaven. This fucking feels like you're being let into heaven, especially after the absolute torture that is the journey the character goes on the album. I was about to say the absolute torture that is the album. The album is not torture, the album's beautiful. Feels like a mix of motion picture soundtrack and Finally Peace. Quadeca officially entering his post-rock era. Except just using accordions. Most torturous album Human Reviews has listened to since Sade, exactly. Even ended with the wind chimes, Jesus Christ. That was fucking delightful, holy shit, I'm feeling like a high 8 on that. That was actually, fuck it, I'll go a low 9, sure. I actually will go a low 9 on that. The more I think about it, that's just like the most intoxicating of the three quite easily. That, again, that pulsating feeling this track has, where with every single breath it kind of gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The dynamics, the way it's constantly just rising, kind of like a balloon getting ready to burst, and then it never really does. You get to the end and then it just kind of lets itself shrink back down. I think that's absolutely fucking beautiful, the structure of this song. It's weird to say structure for an ambient track like this, but it does feel quite specifically structured in that way. Great blending of textures that reminds me of the actual album Vanisher, where it kind of has these very nice angelic vocals. Towards like the top of the mix you have Quadeca with what feels like the equivalent of lead vocals on here, even though it's very evidently not, adding that little bit of like the ghostly presence that you've got on the previous two tracks as well. And that being met with the harsher accordion sounds that feel rough around the edges, but so warm and inviting on the inside, that it kind of creates this perfect storm of something that feels quite somber, but also fittingly final. Something that feels incredibly satisfying as an almost like, I don't want to say full circle moment, but it feels like the album's equivalent of this soul after it's, after, the end of the album, he dies. This soul, after being in, purgatory, reflecting on his life on the previous two songs, it feels like finally being allowed to pass on, essentially. That was lovely. Some good shit right there. Yeah, solid as hell. This was fun. It's a nice little EP. 3 tracks, 21 minutes, 22 minutes. I'm glad this finally released, honestly. I went into this not really knowing what to expect, knowing it was going to be like 3 ambient tracks, seeing that they were all 7 minutes plus. I was excited, but a little worried that maybe it would just be retreading the same ground as the album, whilst not really, adding anything of substance, considering that it's not really pushing the concept forward. Obviously, it's just kind of an attached thing. But honestly, listening to this, it feels like a musical epilogue to the album. It genuinely does feel so tied to that experience, and the kind of mood boards that these tracks create and the emotions that you pull out of them feel like little, I don't know, tying up of the loose threads that the album leaves, of I guess the question that no one asked of where does this soul go after it dies at the end of the album. This was fucking stunning. Just a delightful little 20-ish minute listen with some, again, incredible production as to be expected. I think that the two people that Quadeca brings on, I forgot to say the guy's name, something Irfan, and of course Rosie on the accordion here as well. The two people that he brings on for these tracks do a fucking incredible job at adding some instrumental variety to this, building out these tracks to feel a lot more beefy, a lot more meaty, like they have a lot of substance and a lot to say in terms of, again, tying themselves into the main album as well. And all in all, I was surprised at how, considering the length of these tracks, I never really got bored. Towards the end of the first song, maybe it did get a little stale, but for the second and third track, there wasn't really a single moment of that besides maybe me not being fully invested towards the beginning of the second track, but it still sounded incredibly pleasant, and I didn't mind it all that much at all. I'd say my score for this little EP would be like a solid 8, like an 8.4, 8.5. It's good. This was really good. I don't really have any major complaints about this thing. I think this is a lovely little piece to add into the fold here, a lovely little extra collection of mood pieces that tie into the album beautifully. They feel like painting. They feel also like paintings to represent the album. Well, like the album is the movie. This feels like a collection of stills or paintings to represent the film, if that makes sense. That's the best way I can describe it. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this EP collection of tracks down below in the comments. How does it compare or add on to Vanisher for you? Do you think that it improves the album, or do you think that they were kind of unnecessary? Let me know down below in the comments. Watch my Vanisher reaction if you haven't. A link to that will be somewhere on the screen here. Definitely go check that out if you haven't. Like and sub if you haven't. We are on our way to 4K. Links in the description to my Discord, my Album of the Year, my Twitter, and my other channels. Check those out if you haven't as well. And I'll see you all whenever I next stream or upload. Bye-bye.